Reed here, author of 50 Things to See on the Moon and also 50 Things to See with a Telescope. Um, anyway, we are just going to grab a quick view of tonight's supermoon. It is low on the horizon here for me in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It rose about an hour and 20 minutes ago. The telescope here is going to fight me on the focus a bit. It is wavy because, for a couple reasons. One, it's low on the horizon, so the atmosphere is shaky. There's a thin layer of clouds in front of it, and I believe it is over the university's furnace building, and it's a little chilly tonight. That is why this view of the moon is so wavy. Yeah, so I am filming from downtown Halifax, Nova Scotia, and we are in the south end, but we are north of Dalhousie University. So the telescope is pointed over the university right now at the moon. Yeah, so I'm going to wait and see if anyone joins here. I know the eclipse occurs in about 12 hours here, but not here. You won't see it here because it'll be on the other side of the world. So the eclipse this month is visible from Vancouver in Canada, west coast of the United States probably, and then Pacific, and I believe Australia, New Zealand, places like that. I'm not 100% sure, but 90% sure. So again, this is a live view of the moon, not in very good focus, but not a whole lot I can do about that. I know last lunar stream was a lot more clear, and that was with a different telescope. This is with a C8 telescope. And one of the troubles with nights like this, where the atmosphere is so wavy, is the waviness is amplified with aperture. So these telescopes have fairly wide apertures. So this one has an aperture of 8 inches. And since the atmosphere is this wavy, it's just going to amplify all that disruption in the atmosphere and make it blurry like this. So not a whole lot we can do about that. It's also not that great. Zooming in doesn't improve the view too much. This is kind of nice because this telescope tracks. So when I was doing this a couple nights ago, I was using a Dobsonian telescope and I had to hand track it. But you can see here that the telescope's holding this tracking dead on, So the moon is creeping across the sky. It's moving its own diameter in about, a minute and a half. And, oh, hey, Lisa and Rob. Yeah, so you're about an hour behind us, huh? It was neat. I was in my office there, and I knew moonrise had occurred, but I wasn't sure where on the horizon it was popping up. And it came up right between the trees, right over this giant crane. So I got a cool picture of it, and I might post that later. Although, it was an iPhone picture, so the moon almost looks like the sun in an iPhone picture because it's so overexposed compared to the background. That's an iPhone picture without a telescope, that is. So anyway, it's good. I mean, it's mostly cloudy here too, but the moon is it's poking through there. Let me see if we've got chat visible. There we go. Top chat. All right. Yeah. One thing I don't know how to do yet, and maybe you can't do it on the phone, is to do YouTube videos where you can sort of see the chats pop up for the viewers as well. And I guess that's some of that software that you need to do. Oh, look, there's that telephone line across the moon right now. That's kind of cool. So you'll see the. Hey, Dave. Hola. How's it going? I wonder if I can focus on that telephone wire. Anyway, yeah, this is probably the worst seeing I've seen in a long time in terms of the moon. It's getting a little bit better. I mean, it was just so wavy and so choppy when I first got it framed up. And then you also have the algorithm, YouTube's focusing algorithm, whatever's in this app, really fights with the telescope. I don't know if tapping the screen makes it focus on different things, but nah, it doesn't seem to do anything. It does look like if you zoom in, it gets a little bit better at it. I mean, the seeing conditions are really just abysmal here. But again, the moon is only 20 degrees above the horizon here. It's in about the southeast. Oh, Lisa, you bought one of those Lunt solar scopes. How long do new solar scopes translate to clouds? Pretty fast, I guess. Yeah, I can't believe. So David Hoskin, man, he has been getting some incredible photos of the sun and videos of the sun, time lapses and whatnot, with that solar scope, and just incredible. Now he's using one of those ZWO planetary imaging cameras, and what I think allows him to get the photos to be so nice is that those planetary imaging cameras have very, very small pixels. So that usually the designated astrophotography cameras, like the one I use, the ZWO 294 MC Pro, really great for nebulas and stuff, but big pixels, and that the big pixels allow you to get the detail in the nebula. But for fine detail on planets and stuff, you want small pixels. And so that's what he's combined this small pixel camera with that Lunt solar telescope, even though it's only a 40 millimeter telescope, and just getting these incredible shots of the surface. Now, the other advantage of that telescope is I believe the quality is superior to a lot of what else is out there. So the people have been comparing it to the Coronado PST, which is what I use, but the quality seems much higher. He went all out with 50 millimeters, right on. Yeah, and remember, aperture increases resolution, so you'll be able to get those, finer details. And even though that's only an extra 10 millimeters, it's not. It's to the square bigger, so that's actually a much bigger collection area. Anyway, yeah. So view of the moon here is slowly improving, and I can see there's now no clouds in the vicinity. So, yeah, Dave's solar images are awesome. They sure are. I really learned something interesting here. So Jenna was talking about how her, Jenna Hines doing Moon at Noon with me was talking about how her view of the moon was really weird when she was trying to observe for the first night with her. She uses a 6-inch SCT Nexstar on an Alt-Az mount, and she couldn't quite figure out why it didn't seem to line up with any of the lunar maps. And I was like, oh, it's just try again or tilt your head sideways or whatever. And what was really funny is tonight is I hooked this up and I put the phone on it, and the image on the phone was mirror reversed with a 180 rotation. And so I experienced sort of what Jenna experienced. And then what I realized, it was just how the direction that the diagonal was combined with the position that the phone was on the adapter. So I ended up actually, to get this view, I actually swung the diagonal to the other side and of the instrument. And, I could probably simulate that now. I don't know if it'll flip on me. But so here's the adapter on sort of the east side of the mount. And if I swing it up vertical, so this is if you'd be looking into the telescope. And then if you swing it all the other way to the other side, it's not going to line up with the maps very well. So anyway, I'm going to swing it back here so I can see it. All right, tighten it up again. And maybe I'll use the hand controller here and flip around or center it. So let me test some things here. So there's the minimum amount of magnification. So this is a 2,000 millimeter focal length on the C8. believe. And then a 32 millimeter eyepiece. So, hello, Om. So, Om Patel, are you, is this Om Shmiti Bhattarati Chetri or just Om Patel? So I only know one Om that I know of. And she's from Nepal. Okay, so steering around works pretty well. I think, yeah, you actually get not a bad view if you zoom in. I feel like it actually improves. So there's Tycho right there. I think I am not that person. No, that's not surprising. How's my pronunciation, though? Nope. Trying to get myself oriented here. Yeah, these seeing conditions are really poor. This is exceptionally bad. This telescope is usually crystal clear. Perfect. I'll take it. So this is a mirror reversed view with a bit of a rotation here, about 45-degree rotation from what you would normally see on a map. So I'm just steering my way around. There's what I call the lunar triangle, where you can see the rays connecting those three craters there. Kepler, Copernicus, Aristarchus. I don't have the map in front of me, but I believe they are. And just steering around, having lots of fun. I'll wait till you get a good view before I set up my scope, says Dave. Just waiting to get it a little higher. I don't know. So, like, if you're using, because of how seeing works, I've got 8 inches of aperture. The seeing will be better if you're using 4 inches or a 70 millimeter or something like that, right? Because aperture amplifies poor seeing. So, might not be so bad with a smaller scope. There's not. Are you using a filter? No, not at all. I should probably have put a polarizing filter on here or something, but, sorry about all caps, no worries. I mean, most of the issue here is seeing conditions. So I'm looking over top of roofs, and so that is causing some of the haze. Plus, just the weather patterns that are going over us. I believe we're getting a cold front here. There was a storm that NOAA was tracking out to sea, and it dissipated completely. But I think we're getting some of the residual. Use an 80A blue with a moon filter. And I could try that. I could go grab them, but. So I guess my question to you is: does your blue filter turn the moon blue? Because you could go and, if this was nightcap or something, you could then just adjust the white balance back to, grayscale, and then you'd have get your contrast that way. On Halloween once, I put a red filter on the moon, called it a blood moon. That was before I, would seriously call myself an astronomer. I think that's even before I went to my first astronomy club meeting. It's before that. Had a telescope I set up for Halloween in Oakland, California. So here we have pretty much the lunar seas are the only thing that's really visible tonight. I mean, there's Mare Crisium, Marsh of Sleep, Sea of Tranquility. It's all backwards here. Sea of Serenity. Sea of Rains, I think. just pan around. It's trippy with the hand controller because the direction, like this is left on the hand controller, there's right on the hand controller, here's down, and here's up. Anyone in Southern California? So oh yeah, to answer your question, I'm in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So we are, if you drive 90 minutes north of Boston, there's Bar Harbor, and you used to be able to take a ferry from there to Nova Scotia, and then we're 3 hours up the coast. Ferry lands in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. But I did probably most of my outreach stargazing, like science communicating, whatnot, in California before I moved to Canada. So I'm just reading Tim's comment here. Yeah. So did you use Lucky Imaging or stacking, Tim? Or did you just take the exposures as they were? Auckland, New Zealand, right on. So Ohm will get probably get the eclipse, the lunar eclipse in California. I think you have to wake up in the morning. I'm not sure what the time zone is for that, or maybe it starts at 1 or 2 in the morning. I just forget because it didn't really occur to me because I don't see it from here to really, hammer down the numbers. I mean, so the moon here is 99.8% illuminated. So on no stacking, lots of playing around. Yeah, I mean, stacking definitely using Registax on a PC or Linkios on a Mac really improves the images, but some of those single shots turn out really good as well. And sometimes the stacking compounds some of this as well, compounds some of the poor seeing conditions. So the biggest benefit I've found for the stacking, it just vastly improves contrast. So again, that Credo is Tycho with the big rays of ejecta. I've seen one of the first surveyor missions. Yeah, I think the surveyor missions that the Americans sent before the lunar landings. One of them landed there. Yeah, the seeing gets better as the moon gets higher. The moon is only going to get about 30 degrees above the horizon here from our latitude. Eclipse is at 4:18 a.m. on the West Coast. Thanks, Dave. And then so that's the period, that's totality, I guess. Yeah, going back to Southern California, I watched Pulp Fiction for the first time last night with my wife, and it was giving us huge nostalgia for Southern California. So I used to, when we were dating, she lived in North Hollywood, which I believe is where one of the crime scenes are in that movie. Rough neighborhood. And but I would drive down there almost every other weekend with my 15-year-old Mazda Protege that I bought at Az's Auto in Oakland, and we'd bomb around Los Angeles in that old car. Anyway, good times in Southern California. We definitely miss those those like 50s restaurants like Ruby's, and I guess that's a retro one where they've sort of done it up to be like the 50s, but and then there's that those restaurants in Hollywood that just literally haven't changed since the founding of Hollywood. Man, that's a throwback. How far can we zoom in here? Yeah, that is some awfully poor seeing. Usually when I'm looking at the moon here, that is just as sharp as can be. So go back to Like that would be Schroeder's Valley there, right beside Kepler crater, the really light thing there, and that's it's a great place to explore, and it's pretty well photographed as well. People love taking photographs of that. I call it the Cobra Head in the book 50 Things to See on the Moon. There's Plato crater, and you've got the Straight Range there, which I just nicknamed the hot dog. Jura Mountains up there surrounding Sinus Iridum. Let's see. I get a lot of good feedback on these live streams. I think, most people watch them after the fact, but they really like just listening to the Q&A, it sounds like. So it was great to get on that last live stream I did with the Dobsonian. Great to get lots of questions, and that really makes it fun for me. You know what? We might lose this behind a tree in a minute. That's okay. I'll probably pull the phone off and give you guys a tour of the telescope when that happens. Just show you. This is a very basic setup here. I'm using the, I buy most of my stuff used. So this is a used, oh, Dave says there's an ISS pass. I might be able to get that in this scope. So I'm using a C8. And so Celestron scope. I bought this used, so this is a 1999 model. It's a gray one. I don't see the ISS, Dave. But anyway, yeah, so it's a C8, and I've got it mounted on an AVX mount. So I was saying I buy all my stuff used. So this was, the telescope was $300 on eBay. I know new in Canada, they're about $1,600. And then this is the Celestron AVX mount, which I was about to sell and then changed my mind just because I just like it a lot in terms of it sets up really quick, especially paired with the C8. I just keep it set up, then just throw it out on the lawn, and yeah, brilliant. Well, there were quite a few C8s for around $300 US that I've seen over the years, and I finally sort of pulled the trigger on it. They made a lot of these things, and the design hasn't really changed much in 40 years. Yeah, thanks, Lisa. And then the AVX mount I picked up, I think it was under 500 used, and I bought it on B&H Photo, and I bought it in the States and then brought it up to Canada when we moved here. And I actually didn't use it in the States at all. We were so busy moving to Canada and starting this astrophysics degree that I didn't take it out of the box until we got here. Yeah, thanks, Tim. Yeah, I'll need to do a live stream if I can find the time, just to talk about telescopes in general and what to do for Father's Day. A couple years ago, I got a lot of questions around Father's Day, and because a lot of people buy telescopes, or after Father's Day, I get questions like, "Hey, I got this telescope," and usually it's not a very good one, and then you have to try to, work with them on trying to make it fun. So, yeah, clouds are moving, and the moon is still in this sort of pocket. It's kind of neat. From here, it's lighting up. There's a bit of a rainbow shape in that. So it's like a faux halo around the moon from here. Can't see it on the iPhone screen, but yeah, still didn't see that ISS pass. The clouds are thin enough that I feel like if it were in my field of view, I'd see it. I saw quite a few passes in the last over the last couple weeks. I was saying ISS pass at 10:39. It's funny when I don't know what time it is now because I'm using the phone for the live stream, so I can't check it for stuff. So you gotta. I mean, maybe I could say, "Hey Siri." No, it didn't work. It even overrides that. Oh, it's to the north. Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually up on the deck here. So if I like walk around, it gets pretty bumpy. That's the moon is just thus on the, at the altitude above the horizon, where if the telescope were on the lawn, I wouldn't be able to see it. But being up here on the deck, half the sky is blocked by the house. So, yeah, it's interesting. The clarity sort of is coming and going because it's much clearer here than it was a couple minutes ago. I forget. Let me check that. Yeah, I can see the clouds now passing in front of the moon on the screen. Kind of cool. Let me check the chat and see if I missed any questions here. East Tennessee. I lived in TUK, South Carolina, which was probably 4 hours from East Tennessee. Maybe more, maybe 5. But the thing I missed about that is the thunderstorms. So many good thunderstorms. Okay, let me turn off those chats. None. Okay. Yeah, I think we're just starting to get some of that tree branch covering up the moon. Let's see. I mean, the cool thing about aperture, if you have a larger aperture telescope, as stuff gets in front of it, if it's too far in the foreground, it won't impact the view because it'll just be so out of focus. And so, even the telescope itself has the secondary mirror obstructs the aperture and removes, some of the light collecting area. There you go. There's your leaves. So we can see the moon creeping. Kind of neat. There's the clouds. I took a picture years ago in Diablo Country Club in Contra Costa County, California. And I took a picture of the moon, and there was a tree branch in the middle of the way, and it looked like a fox silhouetted against the moon. And so that was, for a while, one of my favorite moon photos that I had taken was this fox silhouette. Yeah, that's kind of trippy. Let me see. Now the chat is completely hidden. There we go. Not been many storms this year. Yeah. That's too bad if you like storms, but if you like clear skies, it's good. I would always come back from our astronomy club meetings and turn on the AM radio in South Carolina, and then you would hear the I mean, it's not thunder, it's some sort of electromagnetic pulse from the lightning over the AM radio, and I used to love just listening to that. Man, this is really pretty. You can't see it on the scope, but in the sky, it's a very dynamic sky right now. Okay, so let's pull the camera off, and I'll give you a brief tour of the telescope here. Maybe I'll zoom in on the moon, and you can see this cool view. Very just complex sky. I love it. The photo is not doing this justice. Okay. So here's the setup. So this is the old, put this on today. So I grabbed this. This is the Star Pointer Pro by Celestron. So I grabbed it off my Spire telescope, which is just one of those Costco telescopes. But I really like, I just think it's pretty slick in terms of, they're called unit power finders as opposed to a finder scope. And it's got the Telrad rings. And so that basically simulates, there's 3 rings on there. You can't see the middle one because it's blocked by the moon. But it basically simulates 100 times magnification, 25 times magnification, and about 15 times with each ring. And just makes it really, really easy to find stuff in star charts. And the book that I'm working on right now, 110 Things to See with a Telescope, which is a tour of the Messier items and the other deep sky targets around them, it uses Telrad rings on every page to find, to direct you to your targets right there. And so again, that's the Star Pointer Pro. I assume you can buy them separately. Red dot finders and stuff are usually relatively inexpensive. The good ones, the Telrad is about $70. Rigel Quick Finder is the sort of the second tier, which is a nice, smaller, more compact one. They're around $50. But hypothetically, these should even be less, like $30 or something. And it slips right into the regular Celestron finder scope mount. And I put a second one in right here to hold other things like an ASI Air or whatever else, get 2 things going. So this is an SCT telescope, Cassegrain design. And this is an old one. So some of these you can pop the secondary mirror off and put a camera here. And the adapter for that is called a Hyperstar. This doesn't have that. It's too old. But it does have, these are called Bob's knobs. So it helps you collimate it. I've never technically collimated this telescope. The only thing I've done is looked in it and defocused it. And when you defocus a telescope, you can see the central obstruction in the image. And I use these knobs to, you center the, if you're looking at this ring that's unfocused, it's like a donut. If the donut is misshapen, then you can use these knobs to fix that, and that fixes the alignment of the mirrors. And so we've got a big honkin', I don't know how well you can see this, 2-inch diagonal here, and then I'm going down to a 1.5-inch eyepiece just for the iPhone adapter, which is the NextYZ. Actually, I can turn the flashlight on here. Let me do that. Enable flash, yeah. And so this is the NextYZ adapter, and this is just a cheap 32 millimeter Fossil. And I think this is the one that came with the Coronado. But I've got a bunch of these because you got a 32 millimeter with the C90 as well when you buy one of those. And then that little kit that you get that has all the beginner eyepieces that you get before you really know what you're doing. It's like $60 or whatever. That has a 32 millimeter eyepiece comes with it. But the thing I like about the 32 millimeter, the quality is really not there. But when you're using these really powerful telescopes and you're filming with an iPhone, it gives you a big enough field of view so that you're not just stuck on one. It's a wide enough field of view that you can zoom out, is the point. Anyway. And then this is the AVX mount. As I trip over it and kill my alignment. Anyway. And so this has been my workhorse for a while before I got and upgraded to the EQ6R Pro for imaging. So I'm not going to use this one for imaging anymore. It's just not reliable for that. But for visual, it's really a beast. I love it. And I used to think it was heavy until, there's the dog, until I started lugging around the Pro mount. And that's no fun at all. So definitely sticking with this mount for visual. And, I stick all sorts of telescopes on this mount and solar scopes, and put my Newtonian on here. And yeah, might need to let the dog out here in a second. Bear with me. This is Lyra. Come on. Lyra is a constellation that would be over here if it weren't so cloudy right now. Brightest star in Lyra is Vega, where Jodie Foster went in the movie Contact, I think. Anyway, I haven't seen a chat in a while. Let me see if show chat. What do we want? More books. Yes. Well, this book this book we're working on right now is a massive, massive project. So I'm working on it with Chris Vaughn, and it's going to be good. So yes, let me show these live chats again. I saw a question or comment here. Daniel says, I like at how your content is aimed at the regular person just getting into the hobby. I lost it. Used your videos. As guidance before purchasing my last 2 telescopes. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Daniel. That means a lot to me. And Dave said, in binos, you can see the stars in Scorpius. Yeah, so the moon is in Scorpius right now. And what's cool is I'm hoping that people get a picture of the eclipse with M80, which is a rather large globular cluster that's about 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees away from the moon. And usually the moon would completely wash it out. But there's some really good astrophotographers out there. The dog is drinking water behind me, sorry. Who hypothetically could get, the moon and this globular cluster in the same shot, which would be really cool. So, anyway. Yeah. So usually when I do these, this is only my 3rd time doing a live stream on YouTube, I'll just keep 50 things to see on the moon open. And basically I'm alternating between telescopes. And so I have to remind myself which view I'm using. And then I use these, let me find them here. Sometimes I'll use this map. And Lisa had pointed out that on this map, where are they? Atlas and Hercules are backwards. So thanks, Lisa, for pointing that out. It's correct in the text of the book, but it's wrong in that map. And then I use that map to make the workbook, so that was wrong in the workbook too. Anyway. So yeah, so I love using, because we've got all 3 views. So depending on what telescope I'm using, I'll alternate. I'll need to alternate which map I use. That's how the whole book is. So every page in the whole book has the 3 views. One that's standard view, and then one for your refractor telescopes, and then one for your Newtonian telescopes. And if if the seeing weren't so poor, we should be getting views with about that much clarity. Not this much contrast because it's a full moon. But if the Terminator were up, for sure. Anyway, that's 50 things to see on the moon. So yeah, Dave was, I had some comment from Dave Chapman a while back wondering where I keep my telescopes. Let's see if I can maintain internet signal here. So there's Newtonian here. I'm just doing some work on it. And under here is the imaging setup. So there's the EQ6R Pro, and I've got a new telescope here that I haven't actually used yet, which is the Sharpstar 61. And the idea that I'm with this one is the magnification is extremely low. And so it's almost the same field of view as binoculars. So the whole telescope is only about that long. And this is just your focal reducer and your camera. The cool thing about it is when I'll do some live views with it, and it's almost just like giving your eyes superhuman vision. And so it picks up, everything your eyes don't see. And then here's all the telescopes. I mean, I do have too many telescopes, but there's a telescope for every job. So here's the new StarSense that I wanted to check out. So this is what it uses your iPhone to help find things in the sky. And this is brilliant. You can pick the telescope up, drop it on any part of your property, and it just what's called plate solving. So it immediately tells the phone where the telescope is pointed, and then it gives you arrows left, right, up, and down. You push the telescope to where it needs to be. The challenge is that the telescope is underpowered, and you can find all these things. The telescope will point at them, but you won't be able to see them. And one of the biggest issues, too many telescopes, is an oxymoron. Yeah. Oh, and how long before the book's published? I'm aiming for July. As Dave Chapman knows here, I move very, very fast. Or at least I try anyway. It's making books is my full-time job. And I love it, and I get sucked into the projects. And I sort of give it my all. And so they tend to come out fairly quick. And this is the first one in a while that's not professionally published. So I'm taking this one self-publishing it. So my last 5 books were professionally published. Yeah. But going back to this telescope, there's a corrector plate in here, and it's basically a built-in Barlow into the focusing assembly, and it doubles the magnification of the telescope, doubles the focal length, but it makes it overpowered. So increasing magnification decreases field of view, and it makes objects dimmer, and you've already got a big obstruction here, and objects that you should be able to see from the city just fade away. And so, that was tough. Now there's bigger versions of this telescope that don't have that issue. Like, it comes with a 30 millimeter f4, whereas this is a f 9.8 or some weird fraction. Anyway, this is my travel scope right here. This is the C90 on the GT. I always forget the name of this scope. It's Skywatcher's Wi-Fi powered. Yeah, AG-GTI. So, and I had a 2-hour chat with David Levy about it. And so he signed it and named it after himself. And then I bought this telescope just to do a demo of how to use an equatorially mounted telescope. And so I'm going to have my wife do a video on that. So we wrote her a script, and she's going to go through how to use it, more for entertainment factor than anything. But this is on one of these, I think this is the CG1 or something, and it's really a disaster of a mount. After a few minutes of use, this cog here will wobble itself off completely, and then you have to get a socket set out and fix it. And then also there's no way to tighten it so that the whole mount doesn't rotate. Or I haven't found a way to get it to tighten enough, because as soon as this turns, you lose your polar alignment, and then you need to re-polar align the whole scope. But I had a lot of fun with this telescope because I did the Explore the Moon program with this one and with an erecting eyepiece. And it was pretty good because for lunar sketching and stuff, you just had to, you do your sketch of the moon and then turn this to get it back into frame, and do a sketch to your sketch, and then, turn the knob. And then got a wall of telescope boxes here. Coronado. I still need to get organized here in the garage. I don't know. There's the power pack I use for the imaging rig. There's the base for the Dobsonian. There's the bag for the C8. We've got the bag for the Newtonian. There's the refractors in there. And then here's one of my new sort of favorite scopes. I haven't used it for traveling, but this is the 100 millimeter Zoomal reflector. And I was just shocked at the image quality that I got from this little guy. And so this is f4 versus you know, because and the quality of this scope was much greater than this scope, even though that's 100 millimeters and this is 114. And then, anyway, and then this giant box is the Dobsonian that goes on that Lazy Susan. So, and then gear. And there's the couple telescopes in there. That's that travel scope. That's really not very good at all. And then Coronado PST. Anyway, so hopefully that answers Dave's question of where do you keep your scopes? And there's a whole bunch of scopes inside as well for, you know, I use them as for the background in the videos. So when I need to explain something, I can just reach around and use the scope as a demo. So, and then this one today is just powered by one of these little power tanks. And I tried to use this for imaging on the bigger scope, but it burned through its battery in, you know, less than 30 minutes. And that was, I think mainly the big power draw is the cooler on the camera. So to take pictures of deep space, the camera has a little refrigeration something in it, and it cools down to minus 10 degrees, or I use minus 10 degrees. And I think that just sucks the power right out of these little guys. But it'll run this thing for 2 nights without any issue. Unless I put a dew heater on it. So I do have dew heaters for these. And you'll notice tonight, you know, there's no dew at all. But in about a month, if we were out here, this would just be soaking wet. And anyway, so it looks like the moon is right there. But it is completely overcast. So anyway, let me check the chat once more. Maybe I'll flip the camera around so I can say hi. How do you do that here? There we go. All right. Hey, everyone. Let's see here. Let me go to the chat, see if I didn't miss anything. Socked here across the harbor. I guess socked means clouded out. Okay. There we go. Hey, Ian. I'm just about to sign off here in a minute, unless anyone has any other questions about telescopes or astronomy, or a lot of experts on in the chat here. So if I don't know the answer, which is probable, there's definitely someone that does. Again, if anyone wants to support what I do, definitely recommend 50 Things to See on the Moon. Dave Chapman had a huge help in making this a reality. It's also pretty much his idea. And it's just a great book. So if you don't have it, check it out. And Dave said, talking about the parabolic mirror. Yes, it is a parabolic mirror. Yeah. This Celestron does have a spherical mirror, yeah. Really unimpressive. Yeah, we tried to look at M35 with it on a clear night and couldn't do it from LVX. That's pretty sad. M35 is an open star cluster. Most open star clusters you can see from the city in any telescope. And so it's a good test. Like, oh, I'll go to this first target. It's easy. But the telescope, the Celestron couldn't even pick it up. And I believe I tested that with the little Zoomel travel scope, and was able to get it no problem. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, so definitely look forward to 110 Things to See with a Telescope. We're calling it has 2 subtitles, debating which one to use. 110 Things to See with a Telescope, the world's most famous stargazing list. And the other subtitle is a Star Hopper's Guide to Messier's Famous List. The reason I would want to, just reading the comments here before they disappear. Still awaiting my 70 millimeter reflector. Oh, stay comment. They disappear on me here. Oop, it's gone. Still awaiting my 70 millimeter Celestron reflector, but clear here. So heading out with the binos. Oh, right on. ISS flyby. I love ISS flybys. I don't know why. They're so cool. What was I saying? Yeah, 110 things to see with a telescope. Most of the people that buy the books are getting them as gifts. And so that's why I'm not necessarily tempted to put Messier's name in the subtitle, the main subtitle, because we want it to be more, have a broader reach up front. And then as soon as they open it and get to the introduction, they'll be like, this list is based off of Charles Messier's famous list of 110 deep sky objects, blah, blah, blah. But initially just calling it the world's most famous stargazing list will hopefully get people interested and make it a good, a good book to pair with telescopes. And it's also very important to us that it's the best book on the subject. Or at least the most accessible, because there's the three ones that are out there that are really good. The one with the red cover, which is out of stock, and you can buy it for about $300 right now. And then there's Stephen O'Meara's book on the Messier items, which is good, but it doesn't help you find them very much. And he did all his observing on a hillside in Hawaii. And so it's not his comments aren't super useful for people that are stargazing from the suburbs or in less than perfect seeing conditions. And the other book is Messier Marathon, and it's got a ton of detail, but the star maps aren't quite good enough to find stuff yet. So I think with this book, we're doing a star map for every Messier item, except for the Virgo cluster, where we'll do some galaxy hopping, just because there's so many Messier items in a single field of view. And it'll be really good, super easy to use, and just really bring these 110 targets down to earth, so that almost anyone can find them and find them really quick, and then begin to appreciate them. And because the idea is you just to really take people to the next level in their stargazing experience, like getting them beyond Saturn, the Moon, the Orion Nebula, the Great Globular Cluster, and Hercules, and whatnot. So there's getting them what's after that, what's after 50 things to see with a telescope, right? The other advantage is there's observing programs. So the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada and the American Astronomical League, and some of the even smaller ones at a state level in Texas, they offer certificates for people that have observed all the Messier items. And so what the book will enable you to do is to document your progress the whole way. And so for each item, you'll draw it, you'll document what the sky conditions were, what telescope you were using, any other comments, comments you might have. And then you could hypothetically just submit the book then, which you will write in, because it's got an little observing log block on every page. And you could observe that, send in the book to get your certificate. And O'Meara has superhuman vision. That's for sure. It's funny because I get about 200 pages in the book, and his descriptions of what he's seeing get more and more obscure. And I'm like, what's he smoking there in Hawaii? I don't know. These are, because I've taken a photo of every Messier item with the camera, so I know what's there. That was a project I did a couple years ago. I did every item that the BGO could reach, so it can get down. It's only missing about 10 Messier items, and so I'd photograph them all with the BGO is St. Mary's University's telescope, And then I contracted a telescope in Arizona to take the photos of the Messier items that I was missing. And so I have pretty good photos of all of them. So when Stephen O'Meara is describing, these things, I cross-reference it. I did find errors in his book, which is pretty funny. One of them about 4 stars in a row that Messier had documented in his note. So from the year 1790, he's like, oh, there's these 4 stars in a row, and O'Meara was like, yes, there are these 4 stars, and they crossed over this galaxy or whatever, and but it's clear that he wasn't using enough magnification, because if you were to take a step back, you see these 4 bright stars in a row, about a degree away from the nebula that O'Meara had missed. And so anyway, we didn't tell O'Meara that, or Steve O'Meara, that he was wrong in our book, but we did just point out that these are the 4 stars that are in Messier's note, and check it out, because it's pretty cool. Although 4 stars in a row is a pretty common occurrence in the sky, and I think it has to do with how stars form in systems, and so you tend to get rows of stars, cascades of stars, in addition to your clusters of stars, because stars are born in clusters. But anyway, very cool. So yeah, it does not look like it's clearing up. The moon is illuminating the clouds up there, but it is right in the middle of that darkest patch, and there's no other clear sky up around us. So anyway, that's about an hour. So I hope everyone enjoyed, and for real this time I'm going to sign off and put this stuff away and go to bed before my infant son wakes me up. Oh, by the way, you can get a certificate from Rask if you're a member. Yeah, you have to be a member to get the Messier certificate. I like how you get a pin too, but if you look closely at the Messier pin, for some reason it looks like it has a Saturn on it. Yeah, I'm not sure why the Messier items has a picture. The pin has Saturn on it, but anyway, maybe Dave can answer that. It's got 3 ringed things. It's got like Saturn, M57, and then some other, like the Cat's Eye Galaxy or something that looks like a ring. But anyway, kind of funny. Oh, thanks, Joshua. Love your book, he says. Wonder if that's the Moon book or 50 Things to See with a Telescope. It's interesting to hear a lot of people still like 50 Things to See with a Small Telescope, which we've upgraded about every other year since it came out in 2013. But it's funny because some of the old versions are still floating around Amazon, and I'll see people like post on Twitter a picture of them with the book, and I'm almost embarrassed because that was like the self-published one that came out when I really didn't know what I was doing. The content's still good. It's just, it's old. I wrote it in Microsoft Word and formatted it in Word and just threw it on the internet, and I didn't know if anyone would buy it. And a lot of people did, but it's still funny to me that it's since been updated in InDesign and organized by season and all this other stuff that we did over the years. But but to see these old versions still popping up, and of course there's some counterfeit versions going around that people have printed and are selling on eBay and whatnot. But I guess it's a good problem to have. If your book is popular enough that people are counterfeiting it, it's a good sign. Anyway, for real, you guys have been great. It's so much fun talking to everyone on here. I love doing this. Sir Thomas Young says, hi from Turkey. Hello. That's awesome. It's probably almost morning for you, but yeah, or a very, very late night. That's a part of the world I would love to visit. Yeah. Anyway, wait a minute. The moon is back. There's a hole in the clouds. Before I sign off, good night. Let's see how my tracking is. Did the telescope hold its tracking for all this time? Oh, I don't know. Are we there? Let's see. Well, it didn't hold the tracking perfectly, but that was about 30 minutes of... Okay, I'm just doing this on the screen. Where is it? Where's the moon? Okay, let me actually use this finder here. Oh, I think I bumped it when I was talking to everybody. Good night, Thomas. Well, this is embarrassing. It's pretty bad when you can't find the moon. All right. And it's going behind the cloud again. I'm wondering if that's the iPhone mount. That's the problem. Oh, that's what it was. The iPhone mount was off. There we go. One last. That's all we get, folks. Looks like the moon was on fire and someone just doused it with water. There we go. Okay, Dave says the Messier program was the first observing program, and and the pin design was generic. It says Rask. Oop. Gotta get the comments to stay. It says Rask Observer on it with a bunch of celestial objects, then an M in the middle. Lisa says you made it big time if you've been bootlegged. Oh, yes. I don't mind the eBay stuff. It's the... somebody did some counterfeit books on Amazon, and that was not cool. Because they were selling them... They were selling copies to Amazon as new, and then Amazon was repackaging them and selling them as new. Watching the moon from Istanbul with binoculars. Oh, fantastic. Wish I could take a photo. Yeah, it's challenging. It's really challenging to take a photo of the moon with binoculars. I mean, you would need a... I've done it with binoculars on a tripod. So I had a big binocular tripod, and I lent it to a guy named Tony Shellick, who lives down the street from me here. And but anyway, so you mount the binoculars on the tripod, and then have a cell phone adapter onto one of the eye cups on the binoculars, and that's how I was able to do it. But anyway. The moon is gone again, but we got it for a minute, less than a minute there. Anyway, this was great. Signing off, and thanks for tuning in and supporting me and enjoying my books. All right, take care.